What's up, guys? This is Dominic here, and this is my channel where I talk about God, relationships, life. Um, and today I'm going to be talking about why you should not look at a potential relationship as if you were buying a car. And if you don't know what I mean about that, watch the rest of the video. It'll totally make sense. And my question for all of you is, how do you approach romantic relationships? What kind of mentality do you have when you enter a committed relationship? So please leave your answers in the comment section down below, and let me know what your thoughts are in response to this video. So I do missionary work for this organization called Generation Life. And one of the things we do, it's crazy, is we go to the beach and we talk to random teens and young adults about chastity, dating, and saving sex for marriage. And it sounds crazy because it is, but it's incredible how much people open up and want to have a conversation about these things because lo and behold, people are sick of the hookup culture, they're sick of the dating culture, and they are really thirsting for something more. So I've actually spoken to a lot of people about these things, and particularly why you should save sex for marriage. And one response that we've gotten out there on the beach again and again is this popular analogy that before you get seriously involved in a relationship, whether you decide to get married or even just enter a committed long-term dating relationship, like one thing that people will respond with is this analogy that before you buy a car, it is wise to test drive the car. And when they say this, it's a euphemism for saying that you should have sex with someone to see if this person is sexually compatible with you, to figure out if this part of your potential relationship will be successful or satisfying in the way that you want. And so this is the analogy that people use when they, want to rationalize why it's reasonable to have sex before marriage or even before a committed relationship. Like you need to test drive a car before you buy it. And there's something very wrong with this analogy that I'm going to point out. But first, why don't we just give the analogy its due and acknowledge, like, well, yeah, if you're buying a car, like you're committing to a car, to use similar language, it totally makes sense to test drive the car. Like you want to test drive the car for reasons of necessity. Like you wouldn't want to buy the car and then drive it and then like it breaks down and you discover it actually has serious problems. So you want to test drive the car for reasons of necessity. But then there's also just reasons of comfort or preference. Like you want to see if it's a smooth ride or is the driver's seat comfortable enough? Is there enough visibility while you're driving? Like these are lesser but still important reasons for test driving a car. So let's just acknowledge, though, that test driving a car is obviously important. And so if we're to liken a relationship to purchasing a car, it would seem that test driving the relationship would hold an equal amount of weight. But here's the thing, though. When people use this analogy, they aren't talking about test driving the relationship as a whole. Like, they're talking about it specifically in terms of sex. If they actually wanted to test drive the relationship as a whole, that might mean testing it in a variety of different ways, like going out on a date, having a deep conversation for the first time, meeting the person's family or introducing them to your family. Like, but this analogy doesn't ever come up when we're talking about those kinds of things. It's like, no, it's only applied to sex. Like, you should have sex with someone if you are aspiring to a romantic relationship with them. Because if you don't, that's like buying a car without test driving it first. So that's what's being said here. And so it's like, it's about sex. Now, here's why this is problematic. Test driving the car equals sex before committing to the relationship, right? But what's the main function of a car? Like, what is the purpose of a car? The answer is to be driven. Like you buy a car to drive it because that's what a car does. It drives. But driving it is obviously the same as test driving the car. The difference is that in one situation you don't own the car yet and then later you do. Like you've already committed yourself. But it still remains true that driving is the object here. Like that's the purpose of the car. So to follow the analogy, then what is being said with this analogy is that the purpose of your romantic relationship is to have sex. You want to test drive your potential partner sexually because the purpose of your relationship is to later drive them sexually. So here's the real problem with this analogy. The problem is that it reduces the potentiality of a relationship with someone, like it reduces the other person to their sexual performance. It says that the relationship is only worth it if the sex is good enough. And let's just call this out for what it is. Like that's a really bad way to go about judging whether or not someone is worth committing to. Because it all this says is I will love you, I will only stay faithful to you. Like you'll only be worth it if your sex is good enough, if you can satisfy me. And so any kind of relationship that stems from this kind of thinking, or the thinking that this analogy encourages, the relationship will be based on lust. And by lust, I don't just mean attraction. I mean the deeper meaning of lust. Like lust is use. It is objectification. It is reducing someone to the status of an object and then using them. And that is the very opposite of love. So any relationship that grows out of this analogy, this line of thinking, is going to be against love. Now maybe you might be like, well, it's just an analogy. And all right, fine. But it's an analogy for something lustful. Like it encourages a way of thinking about relationships, of thinking about love and commitment in a way that actually just destroys love and commitment. Because people are so much more than just their sex. Like you are worth more than your sex. And you deserve so much more than to be test driven and purchased for your sex. Like you deserve someone who will love you for who you are, who loves all of you. Like make no mistake, sex has its place in a relationship. Marriage specifically and ideally, I would say. But saying the relationship is only worth the sex turns both of you into prostitutes. Like fight for something higher. Know that you are worth more than that. That you are not an object to be enjoyed, but a person to be loved, with likes, dislikes, hobbies, dreams, a past, a present, a future. Like, don't settle for anyone who treats you as less. You are worth love. And don't allow anyone to test drive you. Test driving is for cars. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this video. Leave me suggestions for new topics to talk about. And let me know, again, what is your approach to committed relationships? What's the mentality that you bring into it? And how would you want to be treated in the context of a romantic relationship? Let me know your comments down below. Yeah, and again, no catchy phrase to close with yet, so I'll just say God bless.